The meeting of the Public Safety Committee is now called to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Vaquero,
Present.
Alderman Cone, Alderman Ornowitz, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Kotar, Alderwoman Spencer,
Present.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Boyd,
Here.
Chairman Kennedy,
Here.
President Reed. 8 present.
Well, we have established that we have a quorum today, and we have with us the Public Safety Director who will talk about Board Bill 105.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, Alderman, committee members. Thank you very much for being here. This should be very, very short, I trust. I'm here in support of Board Bill 105. 105 is a board bill that will permit public safety to receive $475,000. That amount was donated by the Fuse Executive Fellowship Program out of California, in addition to the Missouri Foundation for Health. The Fuse Executive Fellowship Program is a program similar to the CORA Fellowship. We've been looking for ways to improve public safety in the city of St. Louis. And we believe that taking a look at bond or bail reform, in addition to a criminal justice coordinating council, as well as the recruitment of minorities, is certainly an opportunity to help us in the city of St. Louis with respect to public safety. The Fuse Executive Fellows are mid-level executives that have a great deal of experience in these areas. We have had several interviews with respect to these areas. We have identified a young man from New York to help us with bail reform, a young lady from North Carolina to help us with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, and we have unfortunately lost the person that we identified locally to help us with retaining minority police officers, and we will put that back out to the Fuse Corporation for a recommendation. These folk have been screened and they've been vetted thoroughly. They are now in California doing a one-week interview process or whatever they do to get them ready to come to St. Louis. I expect them to be here on October 1st. The persons that have been involved with this process over the last few months, over the last 6 or 7 months, have been the circuit judges, the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, local mental health providers, and of course, those of us here in public safety. So the request here, and I hope that you support Board Bill 105, allowing the public safety to accept the $475,000 to pay the individuals that will provide the services that we so badly need in the city of St. Louis.
Questions from members? Would you excuse Alderman Cone? He has to be excused.
Noted.
And Hubbard. We'll begin questioning Alderman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
A couple of questions. What does this Criminal Justice Coordinating Council look like?
The Criminal Justice Coordinating Council would allow those that are in this process. As you know, the criminal justice process is a collection of very independent entities with a great deal of discretion. Police, prosecutors, judges, probation, parole officers. It allows all of those folk to get together and hopefully get on the same page with respect to procedure, processes, and really understanding what is going on. And so there has to be some communication in my mind with respect to criminal justice. The City of St. Louis is really behind as it relates to the communications, if you will, between the entities in the criminal justice process.
Okay. Is this a formal group? Would be appointments appointed by the mayor, or is it more of an ad hoc group where you just invite people to, like a think tank, to deal with issues as they come up?
In terms of the council itself?
Council itself.
The council itself hopefully will be developed and will include judges, prosecutors, public defenders, just to teach us and to show us how it can work better. We've tried to do it in a very loose and unstructured way, but when we look around the country, there are official members that are appointed by the respective entities, and it seems to work. It allows us to avoid any misinformation. It allows us not to have these public disagreements that we've had historically in the city of St. Louis. So that's what this council will.
Right now, I'm clear on how it's going to work, but I'm trying to be clearer on, is it formal where, you know, someone from the circuit attorney's office is present, or it's the circuit attorney him or herself? You know what I'm saying? Is it, see, when I think of a council, and if it's formal, I mean, people are appointed by, or there's a bylaw that says, you know, there's a representative from certain entities.
Yeah, I think the only way that
and they
this-
meet regularly, or?
Yeah, I would hope that we develop the type of program where they will indeed meet regularly, but it's a type of council that I believe will be better created by way of a memorandum of understanding between the various entities. So we don't have the authority, the lawful authority, to demand or to command any of these entities to come to the table. And I think that they have to come to the table willingly and with an open mind, ready to make sure that everybody's working together.
Okay, second question as it relates to pretrial bail. Have you already established an objective for this new program to meet the requirements of the grant? For example, the goal is to reduce the prison population by 20%. You know.
We do indeed have a goal to reduce not prison population, but the pretrial population in our jails. We have a goal to reduce, and we are currently working on that daily. We are communicating with the court to make sure that no technical probation violators are detained in our facilities, or no misdemeanors are detained in our facility, or no ordinance violators are retained or detained in our facilities. And so we work on that every day. And so what this person would do is to hopefully help us to get past cash bail, to come up with other means of ensuring that folk go to court when they're supposed to go to court in accordance with the Eighth Amendment of the United States Constitution. So what we're looking for is a buy-in, not only from the prosecutor's office, but from the judges. And so this is very critical, because we don't drive whether a person is detained or not detained. We are in the public safety department, we're just a jailer. But we can provide information, and we can try to encourage judges to be more efficient when they review probation revocation issues. Or we can definitely drive whether people are locked up for ordinance or municipal violations. I can tell you that today, in the city of St. Louis, we should have no misdemeanors locked up in our facility. Those persons that are locked up because of technical violations or locked up because judges have deemed them to be recidivist, obviously, and or dangerous. And so we're working daily to make sure that we provide information, we provide the data. What the bail person would do is to help us create a program, I hope, that we all are buying into, that we can agree on. This is how it will look in the city of St. Louis, with the assistance of the public defender, with the assistance of the prosecutor, with the assistance of the judges. And so that program would also help us with a program that I hope to implement in the city of St. Louis very soon. The program being cops and clinicians, or community paramedics, We know that we have frequent flyers in mental health. We get the call on the same day at the same time. And so we're sending out fire trucks, we're sending out ambulance, we're sending out police officers, and when we get to the address, it's the exact same person that's been calling us on the exact same day at the exact same time for the last 10 years. And so when we get to those situations, either you leave them there, you take them to the hospital, or you take them to jail. Well, the emergency rooms know them very well, and so they won't keep them. We can't leave them at home. Unfortunately, they end up in our jails. So we're looking for alternatives to incarceration for those types of folk. And so I'm hoping that these are the types of conversations and the types of ideas that we can utilize in the city of St. Louis so that we are jailing only those folk that deserve to be jailed and not those people because they are sick or mentally ill. And so a lot of ideas have been thrown around. I have ideas with respect to what it should look like, but of course, I am relying and yielding to the experts to create these programs for us.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Alderman Vaccaro.
No question.
No questions. Alderman Ornowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Director Edwards / Farmer Judge.
Thank you.
So it sounds to me like you're saying, so right now we have nobody sitting up at MSI on a municipal charge, our own fines.
That is correct.
So then my other question is, and you may not know this, so do we have any state violators up there at this time that just owe fines? Or is the ones sitting up there probably there because they're waiting for a court date or waiting, possibly been sentenced and going to prison?
Well, I could probably guess with some confidence that there are people at MSI that are waiting to be transported to the Missouri Department of Corrections. If they were sentenced yesterday, it usually takes 5 to 7 days to get them moved out of our facility. Now, with respect to fines, if a judge, in my experience, has sentenced a person by way of a fine, then that person should not be housed in our facility.
Thank you, and I agree on that. If a person is sentenced with a fine, obviously they can't come up with the money to pay it. I've always thought and made my opinion that if you're up there, you can't get the money to pay the fine and you can get out. You know, why couldn't we have the person or persons do some community service and basically work it off that way? Because we do have, you know, people that work community service. I just think that would make more sense, and they could get out there, and after they do their community service, you know, then they can go home. But I do like the idea of bringing other people in and sitting down and deciding what we can do to make things better. Look, we all know that MSD is old and antiquated and should be probably cheapest things torn down, but
We should get rid of some of those sewers.
right, but first of all, you have to have a place to put them before you can even start that. But no, I am always in favor of doing things that make sense. I believe that a lot of people have in the past sat up there because they owed fines, and I just don't think that's fair personally. I'd rather have them out there doing community service and doing some good, and then they're done. So I do kind of like your idea, and I don't really have much of a problem with it. Just hoping that, you know, and we know it's not going to happen overnight, so people just have to be patient with us. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alderperson, and I know you meant MSI, and I defend MSI, and I defend it. That's one of those hills that I'll stay on, and that's for another time. But I am offended when folk come from out of town and out of state and take shots at our facilities and not ever having been in those facilities. You may have seen around City Hall in the last couple months that there are people that are cleaning windowsills and cleaning banisters and cleaning the floors. Well, those folk are community service people that I've been able to connect with the judges and bring those people over here to do some community service. I expect to move them out to the green area just across the street on Market. So I expect to have community service people over there cleaning that park as well as the Soldiers Memorial area. And so what we're doing is we're working hard in terms of community service. And you're absolutely right. People should not go to jail because they're poor. I agree with that. Thank you.
Alderwoman Hubbard?
No questions.
Alderman Kotor?
No questions.
Alderwoman Spencer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Judge, for being here today and for explaining this to us. Just a couple of quick questions. The grant here is over the course of, and I apologize if you mentioned this, what is the duration for that 475? So it's 1 year. Is this going to be an ongoing thing that we're going to be continuing to work with these organizations?
You know, I hope that we are, but I expect to have a plan from these professionals very, very quickly. Something
Okay.
that we ought to be able to implement, something that's transferable, something that's measurable. And so those are the requirements of this program. So at the end of the year, I expect to have a document that can be implemented, that we can measure, and that is transferable.
And you mentioned an organization, I believe out of California. The board bill here before us mentions the Missouri Foundation for Health, and but the other organization was not. Can you repeat who that is and what?
It is a fellowship program similar to the Cora Foundation. It's called Fuse Fellows.
Fuse
And
Fellows.
so Fuse Fellows provided $175,000 on the initial, for the initial person, and we had to raise money for the other two people. So I of course, had the opportunity to speak to some very good friends from Incarnate Word and from the Missouri, for the Missouri Foundation for Health and others that helped me fund the other two people.
So the Missouri Foundation for Health is the convening organization that's pulling together the funds from the Fuse Foundation and Incarnate Word Foundation. Is that how it's working? Yes. But they're not fully funding this project?
That is correct.
Okay. Are we going, and the last question I have is regarding juveniles. We've seen a really big uptick in criminal activity within our juvenile population here in the city of St. Louis recently, and this is a really alarming trend, obviously. And I'm curious if we're roping in the juvenile judge, the juvenile justice system, and that sort of thing.
You know, and I certainly don't mind having this conversation. I feel that I'm qualified to have the conversation.
Sure, absolutely.
But I think the biggest problem in the city of St. Louis is not necessarily juveniles. The problem in the city of St. Louis is the permitless carry law, where you don't need a permit to carry a weapon. We have a proliferation of guns in the city of St. Louis, unfortunately, are getting in the hands of juveniles, and they are using them. And so we are one of 12 states in the United States of America where you don't need a permit to carry a gun. And so if you don't need a permit to carry a gun, then police officers don't have probable cause to stop, to have a field discussion with anyone, including juveniles. And so an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old can carry a gun in the city of St. Louis and cannot be arrested under the law as it stands. And so what I've done is I've had conversations with the juvenile court and the prosecutors. We don't call them prosecutors there, but the legal officer in the juvenile court and the other lawyers. What we're doing is utilizing a child welfare statute section, a foster care statute section, behavior injurious to children. That gives our officers an opportunity to take the weapon away. But with respect to adults, we have no gun laws in the in the state of Missouri. And I had an opportunity to have a conversation with our governor, and I expressed the same. And I sure hope that he will consider allowing St. Louis City and Kansas City, our most urban areas, to roll back to the 2014 or prior to January 1st, 2017, when this law took effect, that you don't need a permit. You may recall that right after the law took effect, there was a march down Market Street, Western Market Street, not with people that live in the city of St. Louis, but people that came into our city with little kids, 9, 10, 11 years old, with weapons strapped around their waist, weapons around their shoulders. So our problem starts with the proliferation of guns. And unfortunately, the burden of being offender and victim are African-American boys. And so we can talk about all the social justice that you want to talk about. But until we address this proliferation of guns, we're going to have a problem. And so I've invited our federal partners, ATF, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney, to all come together, carjacking task force, to try to address these issues. These are very, very serious issues. I'm confident that we'll get a handle on it, but, until we will not eradicate, in my mind, this problem until we address this gun problem.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Judge. I think many of our young people do have access to guns, and they are carrying them, but we also are seeing a lot of car break-ins, petty theft, and that sort of thing. And what we're hoping to see is more intervention on the front end when these children are coming before the criminal justice system at the age of 7, 10, 12, and
5
an
and
intervention
6,
that
and I
can
agree
help.
with that.
Can help redirect and provide the family unit resources to make sure that these children never enter the adult criminal justice system.
And with all due respect to Alderwoman Spencer, I appreciate that, and we oftentimes talk about the parent and the family unit. It has been my experience that there is no measurable difference between great-grandma, grandma, mama, and child. And so when I had the conversation with them in my courtroom at 11 years old, it was the same conversation for all 4 generations. And so this is all learned behavior. It's very difficult. I think that we can address some of those things. Of course, we have to deal with the social justice issues, the educational issues, the housing issues, the employment issues. All of those things play a significant role in terms of that family. So it's hard to pull yourself up by bootstraps when you don't have any boots.
And if there's anything that this body can do to advocate for the gun laws that we need, or if there's any ordinance violations, Judge Ransom last night at my ward meeting mentioned that we're able to use some city ordinances related to gun laws as it pertains to juveniles. Please inform us on how we can better support your efforts in that way.
I will be appealing to this committee hopefully very soon with respect to some of the issues, and hopefully the governor was very interested in the conversation. So I'm very hopeful.
Alderman Muhammad, you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Alderwoman Boyd?
Thank you, Judge Edwards. I think this will be a great project. The concern that I have, because I heard you loud and clear, and you said for a year.
Yes.
So what's going to happen after the year, and you brought these people in, so then what?
Hopefully, we will have the prescription that we will be able to put people in place, utilizing folk that are locally, that we can follow the ideas and the programs and the plans that have been put in place. And that's the reason I said that we need something that is transferable. We need something that we can measure, and so that we can put the right people in place to hopefully carry out the ideas and the programs that I hope to receive from these experts.
Now, the one person you said that you don't have, about how long it will take for you to get a person in that slot?
Yeah, this is a national recruitment effort. So
Okay.
these folk come to us nationally. So we will not be able to go back to Fuse until April
Okay.
for the minority recruitment piece. But we all are minority recruiters. So I am, while I need that piece is probably less critical than the other two pieces.
And then the last thing is, I was hearing you talk about with the judges and the circuit attorney, all those coming to the table. And so what I'm hearing is, and I heard Alderwoman Spencer we were talking about the guns and families. So what I'm hearing is you are looking at wraparound services to start focusing on the family as a whole.
Yes,
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. That's a good job.
thank you.
That completes all of our questioning. If there's no other questions or comments from members of the committee, we could entertain a motion.
I make a motion to pass Bill 105 out to pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we pass Board Bill 105 with a do pass recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Cone. Alderman Ornowitz. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderman Kotor. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Chairman Kennedy.
Aye.
President Reed. 9 aye votes and 0 no votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion, and we pass Board Bill 105 with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. As you well know, time is of the essence on this matter, in that I hope to have those folk here in the city of St. Louis on October the 1st.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. That completes our agenda today. We'll get notices of other meetings. We do have other bills. With that, our meeting is adjourned.